Long car rides were the worst for Anya. Even though she was going someplace she had been looking forward to for a few months now, she was still slowly losing her mind. The clock on the dashboard seemed to be mocking this, slowly ticking off the time as she and her boyfriend Dane continued on their way. So far it had been 2 hours and there was still at least another hour to go until they got to the music festival. It was one of those all-day outdoor festivals with multiple bands on multiple stages. Anya's favorite band just happened to be playing there. So after a few pouts and puppy faces she had convinced Dane to take her, not that it would be hard on him as he liked a lot of the bands playing anyway. Under normal circumstances she hated being stuck in the car, under her current situation it was that much more terrible. Anya sighed and rested her forehead on the cool window pane, closing her eyes trying to shake all the images from her mind. Last night she had had the most delicious dream. It was so realistic that Anya woke up horny and ready to go. She rolled over and began to kiss Dane on his neck to wake him up. Unfortunately for her, Dane grunted at her about the long car ride and to get up to start the day. It had become a scary pattern in their seemingly perfect relationship, Anya being hornier than she could handle, and he just wasn't interested. Hardly ever did Dane initiate anything, and when things went down a lot of the time it just wasn't good. It was frustrating as the rest of the relationship was fantastic. It was just that hitch that had been slowly eating away at Anya for a while now, seeing as she was a young 20-something. She didn't even have time to elevate this annoying throbbing need. Not that it would work, but Anya decided to try and get her boyfriend's attention a little bit. That morning she had dressed in a denim mini skirt and light pink tank top, making sure to wear nothing but a silk orange bra that showed though underneath. Dane told her she looked hot but left it at that. Well, at least she knew he wasn't blind and not telling her. So she slid her bare long legs onto the dash, showing them off a little. She placed her left hand on his knee. Sadly, Anya's efforts were wasted as Dane took her hand and gave it a loving squeeze, then put it back on her lap. She rolled her eyes into the top of her head and did her best not to scream in frustration. Slowly she closed her eyes again, this time dozing off for the rest of the ride. "Hey Anya, we're here," Dane said gently and stroked her shoulder to wake her. Anya let out a small yawn and stretched her arms above her head, making the sheer tank cling to her, making the bra show that much more. Again the subtle hints were wasted as Dane got out of the car and walked around the side to open her door. Like the gentleman he was, he held out one hand and escorted her out. "Ah, good, the guys are here," he said with a wave of his left hand at the group of guys standing a few cars down. Anya did her best not to seem surprised because she was. Not that these guys were jerks, on the contrary, they were in her boyfriend's band and really fun to be around. She just wasn't expecting them, and was actually hoping they would leave now. Well, not all of them, just Justin, the drummer and all-around stand-up guy. And all-around hottie. Anya just didn't want to be aroused and having to look at Justin the drummer the whole day. That would just make it worse. It was his toned arms, deep brown eyes and ruggedly handsome face that made him really irresistible to their groupies. Not that Anya was a groupie, she was their photographer, but she still couldn't help but watch him more than her own boyfriend at times. There was just an aura about him that she couldn't put her finger on, but it was very intoxicating. "Hey guys," Dane called and led her over towards them. Handshakes and hugs were thrown around, and Anya couldn't help but notice Justin hanging on just a little longer than the rest. She immediately shrugged it off as her subconscious wanting it to be so and nothing more. After all, they were both good people. She had, regardless of the situation, never cheated on Dane ever, and Justin was a close friend. So Anya looked ahead and did her best to focus on non- or Justin-related topics or thoughts. It was working for a while too. The day was going really well. The group was having a blast, hearing some great music, having some great conversation and just enjoying the festival. Anya had almost completely forgotten about the dull throb that had stuck around all day. It was there, but she focused on other things instead. She couldn't shake the feeling though that anytime Dane wasn't looking at her, Justin was. She continued to chalk it up to her state of mind and nothing more, as she also didn't really think the hottie drummer was the least bit interested in her. Something Anya chalked up to her lack of self-esteem, but that was another story. In her mind, her boring dirty blonde hair and hazel eyes were nothing special. Sure, she was thin, but Anya would have given her left foot for a bit more in the curves department. She was known to attract attention when she smiled, but she never really felt like it deserved. Her height also bothered her. Tiny at 4 feet 9 inches, she'd heard every kind of joke you could think of. It didn't help that most people didn't believe her age or the fact she needed a booster in the car when she drove. Anya had issues accepting herself sometimes, so Justin eyeing her up was just out of the question. All of them being of age, the group spent a lot of in-between band times in the beer garden. Anya didn't really like beer, but it was her only option, so she had a few. Drunk wasn't the best way to describe how she was feeling, more euphoric and slightly tipsy. A place she loved to be and rarely drank beyond that. When she gets to this point though is when she starts to feel a little bit sexier than she did 2 beers ago. In fact, Anya had made a poor choice in drinking, forgetting all the events that had happened that would only make things worse. Thankfully her favorite band was up next and her mind would just be lost in the music. "Hey Dane, Theory of a Dead Man is coming on in a few minutes, I want to get over to the stage," she said excitedly. "Crap, really? Shit baby, I was going to go see Stone Sour there on now too. You know they're my favorite band." Anya bit her lip about ready to leave. No morning you know what, no kinky car thing and now no Theory? No way. That was until a deep all too familiar voice spoke up. "I'll take her dude. I love Theory, Stone Sour isn't really my thing so I mean I can watch out for her." Now Anya wasn't sure if she was really excited by this or really nervous about this. Alone with Justin for the first time and she was pretty sure this wasn't just a coincidence. Something in the air felt tense, in the good way though. However nobody seemed to notice but her as Dane smiled, thankful a beloved friend would step up like that to take care of his girl. "Oh thanks man, you rock. Take good care of her for me, alright?" He kissed Anya on the temple and patted his friend's shoulder as he and the other 2 guys left to the other stage. Justin looked down at the tiny blonde and smiled. It was one of those smiles she wasn't sure what to make of so she just took it as his friendly self. After all he'd never let on in the slightest, even when drunk out of his mind that he wanted her. "Ready to go Anya?" With the use of her name Anya felt her mouth go a bit dry and felt between her thighs dampen a bit. This was bad. So all she could do was try to smile and nod her head without seeming dumb. Out of who knows what Justin put a hand on the small over her back and she felt like he'd just put electricity there. Anya was starting to lose focus on reality as he guided her through the crowd. There was a good-sized group of people already there, so getting up front was just not an option. So they found a good spot in the middle where they could still see the stage fairly well but weren't smashed together with other people. Justin moved to behind her and placed his hands on her waist. "For protection purposes you know," he said with a chuckle and a rather devious smile. The silence between them seemed to crackle with something Anya wasn't sure about but she was sure that if the band didn't come on right then she was going to crack. Almost as if the band heard her prayers they came out. Finally she had something else to focus on other than Justin standing behind her the way he was. When the music started though it didn't help much because Anya began to dance as she always did at concerts, almost forgetting Dane wasn't behind her. She ground her tiny ass on Justin's front as if they were together, but he didn't seem to mind. It was harmless dancing, that's all it was Anya kept saying to herself over and over as she moved her hips with his to the beat. It was in reality almost like dry humping but it was Justin, so to keep her mind off that fact and kept repeating that it was just dancing. Slowly his hands moved from her hips up her rib cage, flat-palmed. Almost out of instinct than anything Anya purred feeling his calloused hands through her thin tank top. Justin responded to this by moving them back down her sides then over her flat stomach and back to her hips where he started. Any thoughts that Anya had been thinking to keep saying just flew out the window. The deadly combination of her being tipsy, horny and grinding with a good-looking guy was just asking for trouble. The band was only on their second song and still had plenty to go. She was slowly regretting this choice because it was getting really difficult for Anya to not turn around. To not try and kiss him because that's what she was thinking about in her mind. It was getting even worse when she felt Justin's hand brush her long hair aside with the tips of his fingers. The sensation sent chills down her arms making her sigh contently. Anya was sure he couldn't hear the sigh as the music was loud but it didn't matter, he seemed on a mission himself. "You look so sexy right now," Justin said directly in her ear, his breath was warm and tickly on her ears. Like before she felt her mouth go dry and didn't know what to say so she didn't speak she just let him continue. She couldn't even open her mouth to object to the come on. Anya slowed her hips down for a moment not sure if she should go find Dean or stay. "Why did you stop Anya? Please keep going," he said just like before, and almost as if in a trance she went right back to dancing. These simple touches and words were driving her wild. Anya felt the throb return in full force. "I've been dying to do this for so long." And before she could ask what that was she felt lips on the side of her neck. Ever so softly but very much there and very much making her lose her mind. Justin kissed down the side of her neck agonizingly slow. He didn't stop there but kept going down her shoulder then retraced his kisses. When he got to her ear he kissed that and took her earlobe in his teeth tugging on it gently. Anya this whole time had been sighing like crazy trying to get the words to tell him to stop. So far that was not working out so well. "I want to touch you," Justin said as he moved his hands back up her ribs flat-handed, this time under her shirt. Not only did Anya not say no but she had pretty much forgotten they were at a concert, surrounded by people, and lest we forget her boyfriend as well. His large hands moved from her ribs to her chest, she closed her eyes and leaned back against him, still dancing to the music trying to seem as natural as possible. You're so perfect, Anya. I can't help but think that each time I see you, it's so hard for me to not touch you. Justin whispered. Anya groaned, finally unable to stop herself, and slid her arms up behind her and around his neck to give him better access. This feels good, huh? Justin said, his voice getting sexier by the second. She nodded her head against his chest as his thumbs continued their slow torture over her chest. He swept his thumbs over the tips over and over, and then changing it up a bit he pinched them gently, tugging on them to drive her wild. She felt all the blood drain from her head, feeling dizzy and completely aroused. Anya couldn't fight the moans in her throat any longer. She gave in, finally panting and squirming against him. I like how this is making you feel, Anya. I could do this for hours. That very thought was so delicious but so agonizing. Justin was relentless, kissing her neck as he played with her tips, rolling them, tickling them gently through the silk, refusing to go under it as he knew it felt better this way. Please, Anya tried to form the words of please, I can't take it anymore, but couldn't. You what? Want more? Justin said. She tried to shake her head no, but couldn't as he had placed his head on the crook of her neck, tracing his tongue along the soft spot where her neck and shoulder met. He knew what Anya wanted but didn't want to listen. She was so turned on by her loss of power. Not that she had really been paying that close attention, but she was sure the band had played 3 songs while Justin slowly made her lose her mind. 15 minutes of her chest being toyed, it was the longest it had ever been done, but Anya loved it. Just when she thought she was about to pass out, he stopped. She couldn't stop the groan of disappointment when he paused, but Justin just laughed gently in her ear. He slid his one hand down her flat stomach. Anya couldn't help the surge of anticipation of having him play with her finally, to get to feel. Justin's mouth was still working slow kisses along her neck, but his hand stayed in place, not going any further south. She let out another groan of frustrating. The throbbing was maddening and she just wanted release. Oh, were you expecting something else, baby girl? He said teasingly before sliding his hand. Slowly Justin then slid his hand under the front hem of her short skirt, toying with her. My. Anya moaned at his words, dying for him to touch her more. Justin's index finger traced teasing lines up and down her. His finger moved slowly, at first just tracing her outline up and down, only hitting her but never stayed on it. Anya was thankful he was so strong because his other arm was now holding her up as her knees refused to stand any longer. Stroke after tantalizing stroke, Justin worked, making her hornier than she had ever been before. Just when she thought he would never stop teasing, he pushed aside. Anya no longer cared that people around were now watching or that she was still outside. She just cared about Justin. I want to make you finish, Anya. She was pretty sure she was just about to lose it. Her mind was swimming. Her panting was getting stronger. Finish, Anya. And as if she were under his spell, she did. Oh, Justin, yes. More. She begged as his hands never stopped what they were doing. She felt like she was shot off the ground like a rocket and was gently falling back to earth. She felt him now pressed against her. Without thinking twice, she turned around and pulled Justin down to kiss him finally. He stopped for the moment and just pulled her close to him to deepen the kiss. Their hands were everywhere at first, just trying to find a spot to land. Oh, Justin, yes. She panted out, feeling once again. Her hand slid down to the top of his jeans, undoing the belt. Crazed and delirious, she undid the button and fly to his jeans. I want you now, Anya said in a demanding voice. Justin laughed and picked her up. Now, Justin, please. She panted in his ear, unable to take it anymore. Her being tiny, and him having lots of upper body strength, made this seem easy. Oh, Anya, yes. He said, closing his eyes, enjoying how she felt. They both screamed each other's names right as the band was saying, "Good night, everyone." It took a moment for them to think, to realize what had just happened. Justin set her down on her feet and quickly buckled his pants. A few people looked at them enviously. A bunch of guys gave him thumbs up. More than one person shot a "you're a s" look at her. It all didn't matter. Anya stood there unable to believe what she had just done. She wasn't upset, just shocked with herself. She just had it in a very public setting, with another guy while her favorite band played. Justin looked down at her and tried to fix her hair up a bit. I don't want this to be a one-night thing, Anya. I want you more now. She bit her lip and weighed this in her mind. The amazing thing with Justin and the stability of her relationship with Dane, it just might work. Me either. Anya said, certain of something for the first time in a long time.